Toastmasters, one of the most important parts of being a leader is the art of making good decisions. In this talk, I want to suggest that you should actually avoid making decisions yourself. Instead of making decisions yourself, you should design an algorithm to make the decisions for you. Using this strategy will make your decisions more consistent, more objective, and more likely to be correct. I want to start off this talk by telling an amazing story from the early history of Intel that I read in the book, Innovator's Dilemma. As a bit of background, in the early days of Intel, their main product was RAM, computer memory. They had built some microprocessors, but in those days, people didn't have a lot of uses for that technology. Here's the story. I'm just going to recite the passage from the book. Through the 1970s, as competition in the DRAM market intensified, margins began to decline on Intel's DRAM revenues, while margins on its microprocessor product line, where there was less competition, stayed robust. Intel's system for allocating production capacity operated according to a formula whereby capacity was committed in proportion to the gross margins earned by each product line. The system therefore began diverting investment capital and manufacturing capacity away from the DRAM business and into microprocessors without an explicit management decision to do so. In fact, Intel senior management continued to focus most of its attention and energy on the DRAM business, even while the company's resource allocation process was gradually implementing an exit from that business. Think about what an amazing story that is. Intel is a company that is world famous for building microprocessors. But when they initially developed the technology, the executives weren't that interested in pursuing them. Fortunately, Intel's algorithm was smarter than the executives, and the algorithm pushed them to go into this new market, and the rest is history. That story is an example of how algorithms can work in a high-stakes business environment. Let's look at a simpler case. Say you want to hire someone. The obvious thing to do is to interview a bunch of people and then pick the best one based on your own personal human intuition. If you do that, you're allowing all of the human follies and foibles of human perception to control your decision. Maybe one candidate was truly excellent, but made a bad impression because they got stuck in traffic on the way to the interview. Maybe one candidate is actually quite incompetent, but they look good on paper because they went to an elite university since their parents were rich. There are hundreds of extraneous factors like this that could influence the outcome of your decision. Here's what you should do instead. Before you interview anyone, sit down and create an algorithm that will tell you who to hire. There's a lot of ways to do this, but a good one is simply to evaluate each candidate in a variety of different areas and then come up with some weights to combine all the numbers into an aggregate score. This exercise of designing an algorithm will force you to think clearly and concretely about what qualities are important in the role. Is it more important to have good educational background or good work experience? Does the role depend more on technical skills or people skills? Once you've answered those questions, you can give each candidate an objective assessment, feed that data into the algorithm, and then make a choice confidently based on the numbers that come out. I want to wrap up this talk by mentioning the way I use algorithms in my daily life. For a long time, I had serious problems with self-discipline in areas like fitness and dieting and spending. My habits would follow a sawtooth pattern. I would push myself to be more and more strict, but at some point I would push myself too far, then I would burn out and drop down to square one again. I would binge eat junk food, I would skip going to the gym for a whole month, and I would spend tons of money on stuff I didn't actually need. The problem was that I was bad at making the decision of how strict do I need to be today? Can I allow myself this indulgence, or do I need to grit my teeth and push through the discomfort? This is not a question with an obvious answer. Some days I need to be strict or else I'm never going to get anywhere. But some days I do need to relax a bit or else I'm going to burn out. As a human, I found it very difficult to make this decision every day. That's where the algorithm comes in. It's really quite effective and simple. What I do is to keep track of my workouts, my spending, and my consumption of junk food and alcohol. Based on the logs, the algorithm tells me if I'm in a green zone or a red zone in each of these areas. For example, today, I'm in the green zone for my workouts, but I'm in the red zone, deep in the red zone, because of Halloween weekend for alcohol and junk food. So the algorithm is telling me for the next couple of days, I need to be really strict about not eating junk food. But if I want to skip a workout, that's okay. This system has done wonders for me by freeing me from the need to make daily decisions about self-discipline. Toastmasters, humans are not good at making decisions. We have too many decisions to make. And if we make the wrong decisions, it can really hurt us. Instead of making decisions directly, we should design algorithms that will do the work for us. The human brain is vulnerable to an enormous range of perceptual distortions, but a computer program is immune. The exercise of designing an algorithm helps to clarify our thoughts about a domain because it forces us to think about what's really important. Finally, when a decision comes from an algorithm, it feels much easier psychologically to go out and just do it instead of worrying about maybe you made the wrong call. Next time you're faced with a tough decision, try writing down an algorithm instead. Thank you very much.